The challenge unveiled. The Galactic Coalition Training Academy orbited the neutron star Vega 9, a gleaming monument to interspecies cooperation that had stood for over 15 millennia. Its titanium alloy rings rotated in perfect harmony around a central hub that housed the most advanced training facilities in 7 star systems. The Academy was where the Coalition's best warriors, strategists, and defenders came to hone their skills, and where only the most exceptional graduated to join the ranks of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Commander Zalthrix glided across the briefing room on his gravitational discs, his 4 arms gesturing expressively as his exoskeleton gleamed under the ambient lighting. His compound eyes surveyed the final-year cadets with a mixture of pride and skepticism. Another cycle, another graduating class, he announced, his voice translator converting his native clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. You 26 have survived 3 years of the most rigorous training the Coalition offers. But before you receive your commission, there is one final test. A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room, showing a writhing mass of tentacles, teeth, and what appeared to be several overlapping dimensional rifts contained within a crackling energy field. This, Zalthrix continued, is a juvenile world eater, designation TX 319, captured from the void between realities and contained through methods I'm not authorized to discuss. A collective gasp rippled through the assembled cadets. Even the normally stoic Krell twins, with their silicon-based biology and legendary pain tolerance, shifted uncomfortably on their crystalline appendages. World Eaters have destroyed 17 civilizations in recorded history, Lieutenant Mira added, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with warning patterns. This specimen is 1/10 the size of a mature adult, but still capable of consuming a small moon if properly motivated. In the back row, Maya Chen sat quietly, her face betraying no emotion. She was the only human in the class, one of only 12 humans ever admitted to the Academy since Earth joined the Coalition a century ago. At 1.7 meters tall with an unremarkable bipedal form, she was physically unimpressive compared to her classmates. The Voltrax could regenerate limbs, the Krell could survive in vacuum, and the Melosians could phase through solid matter. Humans had none of these abilities. They couldn't even perceive the full electromagnetic spectrum without technological assistance. The test is straightforward, Commander Zalthrix continued. Each of you will enter the containment arena and face the World Eater for 5 standard minutes. Survival is success. Defeat is, well, we'll send what's left of you back to your homeworld with full honors. His attempt at humor fell flat as the seriousness of the situation settled on the cadets. You have 24 hours to prepare. Dismissed. The training facilities instantly filled with frantic activity. The Melosian cadets practiced their phasing abilities, disappearing and reappearing through solid objects. The Krell twins were modifying their crystalline bodies, hardening their outer layers to withstand dimensional distortion. The 3 Voltrax were regenerating extra limbs in preparation, knowing they would likely lose several during the encounter. Maya Chen headed straight for the archives. The human isn't even training, whispered Cadet Solmer to his clutchmate. Typical soft-tissue species arrogance. I heard she barely passed dimensional physics, replied Cadet Forlin. She'll be the World Eater's appetizer. The Academy's chief xenobiologist, Professor Chen Ke, found Maya in the archives late that night, surrounded by ancient texts and holographic displays showing encounters with World Eaters throughout Coalition history. Cadet Chen. The professor's tentacles twitched with curiosity. Most of your classmates are practicing combat maneuvers or reinforcing their physical forms. May I ask what strategy you're employing? Maya looked up, dark circles under her eyes indicating she'd been studying for hours. Just researching, Professor. Learning everything I can about World Eaters. An admirable approach, but perhaps misguided. World Eaters exist partially outside our dimensional understanding. Physical prowess matters more than knowledge when facing them. With respect, Professor, I disagree, Maya said quietly. Humans don't have exceptional strength or regenerative abilities, but we survived on a planet with thousands of apex predators by understanding their behavior. The professor's skin changed to a doubtful blue-green. Tex 319 isn't a terrestrial predator, Cadet. It's a cosmic horror that exists in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Everything has patterns, Professor, even cosmic horrors. Maya turned back to her research, effectively dismissing the eight-limbed academic. As the professor left, he noticed something odd. Among Maya's research materials were not just combat records and biological assessments of world eaters, but also ancient myths, folklore, and what appeared to be poetry from civilizations that had encountered the creatures millennia ago. What could primitive legends possibly offer against such a threat? The night before the test, while other cadets engaged in last-minute preparations or updated their final wills, Maya sat alone in her quarters, meticulously crafting something by hand. Her fingers worked deftly with materials she'd requisitioned from various departments: a small sonic emitter, crystalline fragments, organic compounds, and a curiously simple wooden flute from her home planet. Lieutenant Mira passed by Maya's open door and paused. "Cadet Chen, the test begins in 8 hours. Shouldn't you be resting?" Maya looked up from her work. "I'll rest when I need to, Lieutenant. I'm almost finished." The lieutenant's gaze fell on the curious assembly of objects. "What is that supposed to be?" "A hypothesis," Maya replied with a small smile. "And maybe a bridge." "A bridge to what?" "Understanding." Maya carefully placed the completed device in a containment field. "Lieutenant, the Academy Library has extensive records on World Eater encounters, but there's something missing. In all the official reports, has anyone ever tried communicating with them?" The lieutenant's skin flashed with patterns indicating surprise and dismissal. "Communicate? With a World Eater? They're not sentient in any recognized way, Cadet. They're forces of destruction." "So was lightning, until we understood it," Maya replied. "Every species interprets the universe through its own perceptual framework. What if World Eaters are just operating on different assumptions?" Lieutenant Mira stared at the human for a long moment. "You're either brilliantly insightful or suicidally delusional, Chen. I suppose we'll find out tomorrow." As the lieutenant walked away, she heard Maya humming softly, a strange, discordant melody that somehow made her think of spaces between stars. The testing arena was a massive circular chamber with walls of pure neutronium, reinforced by 12 overlapping energy fields. The World Eater, TX 319, floated in the center, a writhing mass of tentacles, maws, and spatial distortions that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Parts of it seemed to disappear and reappear at random, existing in dimensions the cadets couldn't perceive. Commander Zolthrix addressed the assembled final-year cadets from behind the safety of the observation barrier. "The order of testing has been randomly assigned. Each cadet will have exactly 5 minutes in the arena. If you wish to forfeit before your time is complete, use the emergency extraction signal." He gestured to the small devices attached to each cadet's uniform. "Though I remind you that forfeiture means failing the test and your entire academic career." The first cadet to enter the arena was Solnar, one of the Voltrax. His multiple limbs carried an impressive array of energy weapons, and his cell structure had been specially reinforced to withstand dimensional stress. He lasted 2 minutes and 17 seconds before the World Eater caught him in a tentacle and began to literally pull him between dimensions. The emergency extraction saved most of him. The Krell twins fared better, their crystalline forms resistant to the World Eater's attempts to consume them. They actually managed the full 5 minutes, though they emerged with significant fractures throughout their bodies. One by one, the cadets faced the challenge. Some succeeded through sheer defensive capability, others through speed and evasion. 3 more had to be extracted early, and 1 Malosian cadet disappeared entirely, presumably phased into a dimension from which they couldn't return. Finally, it was Maya Chen's turn. "Our final candidate, Cadet Maya Chen of Earth, announced Commander Zolthrix, unable to keep the skepticism from his voice. May your ancestors guide your path. As Maya stepped toward the arena entrance, Lieutenant Mira caught her arm. It's not too late to withdraw, Cadet. No one would think less of a human for recognizing their limitations. Maya gave the lieutenant a small smile. Thank you for your concern, but I'll be fine. At least take a defensive shield, the lieutenant insisted. That would interfere, Maya replied, patting the small pack she carried. But I appreciate the thought. The heavy doors slid open, and Maya Chen, the unremarkable human in a class of extraordinary beings, walked alone into the arena to face the World Eater. The impossible victory. Maya Chen stood in the center of the arena, seemingly diminutive against the cosmic horror that was Tex 319. From the observation deck, the gathered instructors and cadets watched with a mixture of morbid fascination and preemptive grief. Human funeral rites would need to be arranged by day's end, they assumed. What is she doing? Commander Zolthrix demanded as Maya simply sat down cross-legged on the arena floor. The World Eater's writhing mass shifted, tentacles undulating in what could be interpreted as confusion. It had expected movement, evasion, attack, the patterns it recognized as threat or prey. This stillness was unexpected. Maya removed several objects from her pack and arranged them in a small circle around herself. The wooden flute, the sonic emitter, the crystalline fragments, various small containers of what appeared to be organic compounds. Is this some human meditation ritual before death? Professor Tenko wondered aloud. Lieutenant Mira's skin pulsed with realization. She's attempting communication. Impossible, scoffed the commander. World Eaters don't communicate. They consume. In the arena, Maya opened one of the containers and a strange scent filled the air, reminiscent of ozone, stellar dust, and something indefinably ancient. The World Eater's movements changed, became less erratic. Several of its mouths opened wider, as if tasting the air. Maya activated the sonic emitter, which began producing a series of low-frequency vibrations that could be felt rather than heard. Then she raised the simple wooden flute to her lips and began to play. The melody was unlike anything the observers had heard before, discordant by conventional standards, with impossible intervals between notes and rhythms that seemed to follow no logical pattern. Yet somehow, it wasn't unpleasant. It felt older than music, more fundamental. What frequency is she using? Demanded the commander. Multiple frequencies, replied the technical officer, staring at his readings in disbelief. But they're impossible. Some of these vibrations shouldn't be able to exist in our dimensional plane. The World Eater had completely stopped its violent thrashing. Its many appendages hung suspended in the air as if listening. The spatial distortions around it seemed to stabilize, no longer flickering in and out of perception. 3 minutes remaining, announced the automated system. Maya continued playing, the strange melody evolving, becoming more complex. With her free hand, she crushed one of the crystalline fragments, releasing a burst of light that pulsed in perfect synchronization with the music. Most remarkably, the World Eater was moving in rhythm with the pulses, its tentacles swaying in patterns that matched the melody. It's responding to the stimuli, Professor Tenko whispered, his academic detachment giving way to awe. Impossible, Commander Zolthrix repeated, but with less conviction. Maya lowered the flute and spoke. Her words weren't in Galactic Common or any recognized language. They were sounds that seemed to bend around normal hearing, syllables that existed partially outside conventional phonetics. The World Eater responded. A vibration emerged from its central mass, a sound that made several of the observing cadets cover their auditory organs in pain. But Maya showed no discomfort. She nodded, as if understanding, and responded with another series of impossible syllables. She's speaking its language, Lieutenant Mira said, her skin flashing patterns of astonishment. How is this possible? 1 minute remaining, announced the system. What happened next would be discussed in xenobiological circles for decades to come. The World Eater extended a single tentacle toward Maya, not in attack, but with the delicate precision of a gesture. Maya reached out and actually touched the tentacle. Where their contact should have caused dimensional disruption, there was instead a moment of perfect stillness. Maya spoke again in that strange language, then stood and gathered her items. She walked calmly toward the exit as the World Eater floated backward, creating space between them. Not out of fear, the observers somehow knew, but out of respect. "Test complete," announced the system as the arena doors closed behind Maya. The observation deck erupted in chaos. Cadets and instructors alike bombarded Maya with questions as she emerged. "Cadet Chen, what did you do? How did you communicate with it? What did it say to you?" Commander Zolthrix raised his appendages for silence. "Cadet Chen, explain yourself immediately." Maya looked tired but satisfied. "I studied the historical records, Commander, but not just the scientific data. I looked at the myths, the folklore, the artistic representations of World Eaters from cultures that encountered them millennia ago. Ancient superstitions have no place in modern tactical approaches," the commander dismissed. "With respect, sir, I disagree," Maya replied. "Those superstitions contained patterns that the scientific data missed. The World Eaters aren't just predators. They're travelers, beings that move between dimensions looking for something." "Looking for what?" Professor Tenko couldn't contain his curiosity. "Recognition," Maya said simply. "They experience reality in ways we can't comprehend, but the fundamental desire to be understood is universal. That's your hypothesis, that an interdimensional horror just wants a friend." The commander's tone was skeptical, but his body language showed uncertainty. "Not exactly, sir. But imagine trying to communicate with a two-dimensional being when you exist in 3 dimensions. The frustration, the impossible gap in perception. World Eaters exist in more dimensions than we can perceive. To them, we appear flat, limited, almost non-existent." Maya held up the flute. "This is from Earth. Ancient humans used instruments like this in rituals to communicate with what they believed were gods or spirits, beings that existed beyond normal perception. The notes create harmonic patterns that resonate across dimensional boundaries." "And the chemicals? The crystals?" Lieutenant Mira asked. "Sensory bridges," Maya explained. "Different species perceive reality through different senses. I created a multi-sensory communication approach, sound, scent, light, vibration, to establish contact across as many perceptual channels as possible." "And a language?" Professor Tenke pressed. "Not exactly a language," Maya admitted. "More like mathematical expressions vocalized in a way that can exist partially outside our dimensional constraints. I based it on patterns I found in ancient texts from civilizations that claimed to have spoken with the devourers of worlds." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For millennia, the Coalition had treated World Eaters as mindless forces of destruction, cosmic predators to be feared and fought. The idea that they could be communicated with, understood, was revolutionary. "What did it tell you?" Commander Zolthrix finally asked, his skepticism giving way to wonder. Maya smiled tiredly. "Many things, Commander. But perhaps most importantly, it revealed that World Eaters don't actually eat worlds for sustenance. They consume dimensional reality because they're trying to create something. They're not destroyers. They're builders working on a scale we can't comprehend." In the days that followed, Maya Chen became the first human to graduate at the top of her class from the Galactic Coalition Academy. Her thesis on interdimensional communication protocols became required reading for all Coalition contact specialists, and TX-319, the juvenile World Eater, became the first of its kind to be classified as a sentient being rather than a cosmic threat. The Coalition established a new research division dedicated to cross-dimensional communication, with Lieutenant Commander Chen as its founding director. And deep in the spaces between realities, Word spread among the world eaters. There were small, limited beings in the lower dimensions who were finally learning to listen. They had been trying to start a conversation for millennia. Now, at last, someone had answered.